Welcome to Murder at Castle Nathria, getting started here with a little bit of Wildseed Hunter and trying to find out just how good this deck actually is. I think we definitely want to keep our Wildseed stuff, and we're definitely keeping the Batty Guest as well. It almost looks like you can go 1, 2, 3. Question is, do we keep the Frenzied Fangs? I kind of think we do, because we'll be able to infuse it, and 2, 3, 3 sounds pretty good. So I'm actually going to full keep here. No idea exactly what the best mulligan is going to be just yet. It's day 1 within the first, 45 minutes of the expansion here. Also, no idea what our opponent is going to be playing. We just get the 1 drop down. Maybe some kind of Necrolord Draka Rogue, Miracle Rogue. Interesting thing about the first week of a new expansion, it's always marked by people playing bad decks poorly. Most likely nobody's going to be playing a good deck, or at least not a fully refined deck. And then people are going to be making misplays. They're still trying to get used to the new cards, new play patterns. And we do see that it is going to be most likely a Necrolord Draka Rogue. I'm thinking that we actually just coin out the Stag Charge and shoot him in the face here. Charge into charge. We're going for it. Still 2 more turns, we hit the 2/5 taunt. That's pretty solid. This is an aggro deck, so we're likely going to be spending most of our time going face against our opponent. We really want to make our opponent make the trades. Of course, there's no such thing as a universal rule in Hearthstone, so we'll evaluate it turn by turn, but most likely that's what we're going to be doing. Also, both Frenzied Fangs are being infused here, so that's going to be good for us. Could potentially have a turn where we get down 4 3/3s. That's a lot of power on the board. Probably going to be a stealth minion coming out here. Second location. They use both. This awakens now. We just play the Wild Spirits. I think we just play the Wild Spirits. And then next turn, we'll be able to put 12 power on the board. It seems really strong, I think. Looks like we're going to get the Rusher. That's actually on the board now. And then we've also got the 5/4 that's going to give us a 4/2 bow in a couple of turns here. So next turn, we're going to have options. We could potentially Stag Charge to remove something into Click Clocker, or we can just put a lot of stats on the board. A lot of stats actually feels pretty good. 12 power. Although, maybe things line up just a little bit better if we Stag Charge the 5/3 and play the Click Clocker. Gives us a trade the following turn. Removes this guy. We'll still be able to get a lot of power on the board later. Feels like we have to. Second 5/4 down on the board. This guy's going to awaken next turn, likely going to be punching face, I would hope, with that 4/2 bow. So we're going to have a 4/2 weapon basically the rest of the game because the way these have staggered out. Our opponent maybe trying to set up a big Draka play or a big location play. So this is going to feel pretty good for us here. We can actually play... It's not good to play all 3 of these though because we're not going to have the board space. But I think we just want the 3/3s. Rogue doesn't have any board sweep effects, so going as wide as possible is going to be the way that we're going to be able to beat this Rogue deck. Just really want to start getting damage face and looking to close out our opponent. Not quite sure what they're thinking about here. Again, not totally sure what's in this deck, just making educated guesses. Pretty much, it's going to be close to some of the theory-crafted decks that we've seen. So, you know, we kind of have a rough idea of what our opponent has in their deck, but, you know, not fully aware. Are they going to go ahead and use locations, I wonder? So the 4-1 sticks. And we get another click clocker, so what if we just go wide? We go face and just go really wide here. They get a good trade there. Maybe we swing into this to try to protect. They're going to have 2 coins, 2 locations, so they're going to be getting big minions on the board. Maybe we actually have to trade for the 4-1, try to protect our 5-4, and just stay as wide as possible. We're going to try to force our opponent to make defensive plays here, I think. Just by going really, really wide. We're just going to go ahead and take the trade, see what our opponent does. 22 power on board. Of course, not all of this is going to survive, but a lot of it will. Our opponent's likely going to have to make some trades. They're also likely going to be looking to set up some kind of lethal the following turn. They're going to have some really big minions in stealth here, it seems. Lots of coins, which means big stealth minions. We just need to be able to survive next turn, and then I think we're going to be okay here. Hopefully there's no Krakatoa. Also, Death Rattle's in this deck, which is interesting. There's the big weapon. 7 attack weapon. 8/8 minions, so we basically just have to kill our opponent. And we're not going to be able to do it. We're actually going to be 1 off lethal here. It's like the saddest story ever told. Nothing saves us, right? We're just dead to the 2 stealth minions on board. We can't draw any cards, so we're going to set our opponent to 1 and see our way out of this game. So, came up just a little bit short here. Unfortunately, no quick shot off the top. Sad. Still ended up being a pretty good game for us, though. Our opponent really went off with the miracle portion of their deck. Back for another game against Mage, likely going to assume that this is going to be a volatile skeleton Mage. And I think we're just going to keep the baddie guest, and we're going to toss away everything else. Hopefully try to look for some of our Wildseed cards. Interesting. So we're going to go Trog into Spirit Poacher. Spirit Poacher, man, this card is just insane. So good. Trog is going to be really good against our mage opponent here. If the Trog multiplies, that's going to be really good for us. And we're just hoping for face damage. And we want to make the strongest possible play every turn, which in this case is going to be to get this down. So we're going to have the 2/5 taunt coming into play in a couple of turns. Next turn, tentatively, we would be looking at K9 Baddie Guest. Is there any reason... I mean, we play the Baddie Guest and it's going to summon a 2/1. Our opponent could just ping it off, but then they spend their turn on a hero power, which feels pretty good for us. So I think we're just going to go Baddie Guest, and we're going to hero power their face. Probably not a lot of healing in this mage deck. My guess would be that it's going to be just the hero card that they'd be able to heal up with. So damage being basically permanent, we're going to try to leverage that to be able to find lethal on our opponent before they can do really, really powerful stuff. We should be able to keep them under pressure fairly well. They still have the coin here as well, it looks like. Next turn, we're probably going to want to dredge to be able to find something good. Yeah, they've got the ping package. So we can actually click Clocker, and then we'll play the buffed K9 into Baddie Guest. Seems like it's going to be the strongest turn we can make. And I think we want to take the Huntsman to start trying to infuse it. I believe that's going to be correct. We'll get it in hand. Next turn, we'll be able to K9 and dredge likely a school teacher. We'll also be able to ping. This is good news for the infuse here. I forgot that this card actually gives our opponent armor. That's really good for him. We don't want to trade into these because we're potentially be damaging our own minions, so everything is just going to go face here. We're going to dredge, and recoil is interesting. I think I like the school teacher though, just being able to discover a spell. Hunter has so many good spells that we could hit, and we're just going face with everything. Also, the school teacher is going to give us 2 bodies that potentially die, which again is going to infuse the Huntsman Altimore. By turn 7, we may actually have it infused all the way up to 8, which is going to put a lot of stats in play. Could potentially be really good for us. Hoping we don't see the Reckless Apprentice here. Unfortunately, that's exactly what they have. Starting to feel like a board clear by the time these trade in and go off. Hopefully that damage actually goes face here. Maybe not a full clear, though. Could potentially have at least 2 minions left on the board, but our opponent's not done. Is it worth it to coin ping, I wonder? Still need 4 more infuses, and we're going to have 4 minions on the board, so next turn it's possible that when we play this we're going to be able to get all of the animal companions here. Stag Charge is definitely going to be the play, and we're just going to go ahead and get this down, and we want to go face against our opponent. Again, we're going to keep them in as defensive a position as possible. And we're going to have the 3-1 rush next turn, so that'll help us clear up a minion on the board. Not super valuable. If everything on the board dies, our Altimore is absolutely huge. As big as it can possibly be. Could even consider, like, if there's only like a 1-1 token on the board, maybe we trade that just to make sure that it's fully infused. We'll have to see what our opponent does. So that's a Wildfire. And they were able to heal up. So our opponent doing pretty well here. Tavish is an interesting top deck for us. So infuse 3. I think we just play it and take the 2 animal companions. Make this trade and shove everything else face. Was hoping for a Huffer. Did not get it. Our opponent, though, should be out of healing. I guess they do have 1 more cold case. Hopefully they're not going to be able to find it. They're only 11 cards deep. Likely going to be clearing up a lot of our board, though, with these volatile skeletons. Next turn, it's just going to be Tavish Hero Power. Would really be nice if this thing would shoot me in the face. Come on, bro.
This is not what we stood for.
School teacher is not going to be good enough. We're going to Tavish, and we want to use the Tavish Hero Power rather than this Hero Power. And I think we want... Do we want a Snake Trap? How good is it, actually? Freezing Trap potentially protects a minion that's on the board. An Ice Trap to block a spell. Or do we just take Explosive for the damage? I'm gonna take the Snake Trap here, I think. We managed to hit the Huffer, so we're going to trade like this to be able to maintain our board as much as possible here. So starting to get close. Our opponent's getting pretty low. Really hoping to not see like a Mordresh here. Mordresh is going to be really good for our opponent. Second Reckless Apprentice. Second Cold Case for healing. Potentially have a lot of options here. Also, all of our traps revolve around trading on the board, which may have been a bit of a misplay. We're going to have to see what happens with our opponent, but if they don't actually trade for this 2-1, then our traps are near worthless, and they'll know exactly what they are. I don't think you want to hero power 6 damage onto a 2-1 minion, though. Wanted to test for explosive. You pretty much have to remove the 2-1 because they can't afford to take damage. I'd like to see an aim shot coming out of this, if possible. Quick shot would also be good. Spirit Poacher likely just gets played to get the Wildseed on the board. And I think we want to go ahead and just discover what's in this. We're not concerned about the 4-3 dying. Stag Charge is good. It's going to be damage face. And we'll actually be able to play everything in our hands, which is going to be good. That's a great bow, but we're going to have to be able to survive a few turns, or we're going to need to hit like a Wild Spirits to get it active. And that's a second one. So a bit unfortunate there that we got the 2 5-4s. If we can survive a couple of turns, it starts to become much more likely that we're going to be able to win this game. The issue is our Snake Trap is worthless, and our opponent seems to be in a pretty good spot, so if we get really lucky, we can just hit like a Stag Charge or a Quick Shot, roll another Huffer, and get out of this game. Also hoping that our opponent isn't able to draw like another Cold Case, or create, you know, some kind of healing. So one thing that I've noticed in these 2 games, it feels like we've been close to killing our opponents, but we haven't quite been able to get there. I don't know if that's going to be a theme with this deck or not. Again, it's the early days. Possible I'm making misplays. And looking for a really good top deck here. That counts as a really good top deck. Very nice off the top. Never Huffer. Actually, this card doesn't do what I thought it did.
Let me remind you who you're dealing with.
Yeah, that's really annoying. It doesn't do anything other than prevent us from killing them. It can only take 1 damage at a time. But it's possible that this is going to be just enough. Once we can get the 4-2 Great Bow equipped, we start to get really, really close, and we're still pretty healthy at 24 health here. So we'll be able to hit our opponent for 2. We'll be able to hit our opponent for 0. Even if we roll Huffer, it only does 1 damage because of the solid alibi. Yeah, hate to see it. Those animations take a long time as well. Click the Clocker. Now we hit the Huffer when they're only going to take 1 damage. And they also have an Ice Barrier, so that is also unfortunate. Our opponent back up to 14 thanks to random effects with the randomly created Rune of the Archmage. Man, that feels really bad. So it's hard to really evaluate the deck when your opponent, you know, kind of high rolls a Discover and high rolls the results of a Rune of the Archmage. The extra healing might be enough to actually prevent us from winning the game. We're still just hoping that they don't ever find Mordresh, which it's just extremely likely that they're going to have it or find it soon. Could even potentially just be dead to something like a Kel'Thuzad at some point. So we'll have 4, 5. Huffer would be 9. So there's nothing that actually kills our opponent in our deck. And we're just getting closer and closer to being dead ourselves. At only 16 health, I think it's likely we're just dead next turn to a Mordresh. The randomness on the wild seeds might be just a little bit too much. I mean, this fills our board, so I don't think we can actually even play it. This would have been a nice top deck maybe last turn or 2 turns ago. We do manage to land a Huffer. But we're absolutely dead to Mordresh here, so I'm expecting the opponent plays Mordresh and we're just dead. We got this card that's been in their hands since the beginning of the game. Wouldn't be surprised if that was Mordresh himself. And basically just waiting to see the end. We're so close to being able to kill him. Again, second game in a row that we were close to being able to kill our opponent. And not knowing if that's, again, really like a theme for the deck. Snake Trap finally goes off, so this presents an extra target for, like, the volatile skeletons. And just the fact that they attempted to make a trade rather than Mordresh ping. So, I mean, we've got potential. We've got a top deck. We've got, potentially we can roll a Huffer. We just need 1 damage. They're going to freeze our face. Still have to remove the 5/1. No way they make that mistake. The 5/1 is dead, right? They freeze the 5/1. And there's nothing, I think, that can actually win us this game. Second game in a row, we're 1 damage off of killing our opponent. That is extremely, extremely sad. But them's the breaks. So, Wildseed Hunter, from what we've seen in the 2 games that I've just played, looks like it may actually just not be good enough. It's possible, you know, I was so close to winning these games against our opponents. Maybe I misplayed somewhere. Maybe there was 1 damage that I missed at some point. Would have to go back and take a look at that. But Wildseed Hunter, brand new archetype for Murder at Castle Nathria. The Wildseed package is going to be good. The question is, what type of deck does it belong in? It's possible that this list just isn't good enough. Might actually be better with some of the theory crafted lists I saw that ran maybe like a Doggy Biscuit or possibly a Ramming Mount. But I do think there is going to be something here somewhere. It's just a matter of finding the right list. So thank you for watching. I'm Uncorrupt. Good luck out on the ladder.